Have you ever been told you're too quiet, or that you enjoy your own company a little too much? In a world that often praises busyness and constant chatter, many seniors who prefer solitude feel misunderstood, even judged. But what if I told you that your love for quiet moments isn't a weakness, but a sign of emotional strength, wisdom, and self-trust? If you find comfort in silence, peace in your daily routine, or meaning in simple reflection, you're not alone. And you're not invisible. In fact, you might possess some of the most powerful traits aging has to offer. This video will walk you through 10 distinct personality traits found in seniors who thrive in solitude, and why those traits aren't just admirable, they're essential. So if this sounds like you or someone you love, stay with me. Tap that like button, subscribe for more gentle wisdom, and if you relate to anything here, just comment with a simple "Yes, I see you." Trait 1, inner peace. Some people need noise to feel alive. Others find life in the stillness. Every morning, Louise, a 72-year-old widow living in Vermont, begins her day without an alarm clock or a to-do list. The kettle hisses softly while sunlight brushes against her kitchen counter. She sits in the same wooden chair she sat in for years, holding a warm mug of tea between both hands, not to drink immediately, but to feel its quiet presence. Outside, the world moves quickly. Inside, time has its own rhythm. Louise is not escaping life. She's meeting it differently, on her terms. This is inner peace. Not a temporary break from chaos, but a stable place inside that needs no approval, no performance, no audience. Many seniors who enjoy solitude carry this kind of calm, not because they've avoided life's storms, but because they've lived through them and no longer let the weather decide how they feel. It's a state that's built over time, not found in books or broadcast in conversations. And unlike the urgency that drives much of the world today, this peace isn't loud, it's settled, like a stone at the bottom of a river. In today's culture, where even silence is filled with screens, alerts, and background chatter, people like Louise stand apart. While others rush to fill every pause, she understands the value of letting it breathe. There's a quiet rebellion in not needing to prove anything. When the world says, "Be more," she gently says, "I already am." That kind of self-assurance can look passive to those who don't understand it. But for those who have lived long enough to untangle themselves from constant validation, it is a quiet triumph. Solitude, especially in later years, is often misread as loneliness. But there's a difference. Loneliness aches. Inner peace rests. Loneliness craves company. Inner peace enjoys presence, even if it's just your own. Louise hasn't closed the door to the world. She simply opened the door inward and found enough. Have you ever felt that stillness? Not the kind forced by circumstance, but the kind you choose because it feels right. If so, you might be carrying more wisdom than the world gives you credit for. I invite you to share that moment in the comments. A time when being alone didn't mean being empty, but whole. Trait 2. Emotionally independent. Margaret lives alone in a small home tucked behind a row of cottonwood trees. She used to share this space with her late husband, but now it's just her, and she's okay with that. Every Friday, her daughter calls and offers to come over, but Margaret usually says, "Let's talk on Sunday instead when you're less tired." It's not that she doesn't enjoy company. She simply no longer depends on it to feel whole. She reads, tends to her garden, cooks meals for one without sadness, and sometimes laughs aloud at something in her own memory. Her days are quiet, but full because they're lived from within. Emotional independence is one of the most misunderstood traits in older adults. Society often equates solitude with a lack of love or a lack of need. But Margaret, and many like her, know that true emotional strength is not about avoiding others. It's about not relying on others for your sense of self-worth. While many chase attention or lean heavily on relationships to feel secure, emotionally, independent seniors find comfort in their own presence. They're not bitter, they're not detached. They've simply stopped outsourcing their happiness. This kind of strength isn't loud. It's not shared in status updates or group chats. It shows up in the ability to say no without guilt, to sit alone without fear, to enjoy a sunset without needing to text someone about it. While much of the world teaches us that joy must be witnessed to be real, Emotionally independent people know the opposite is true. Some of the most meaningful moments are the ones that pass quietly, seen only by the self, deeply felt, never explained. In a culture where validation often comes from clicks and comments, emotional independence is quietly radical. It says, "I am enough right here as I am." That mindset doesn't close you off from others. It frees you to connect without clinging. Margaret still loves her daughter, still welcomes a visit, but her peace doesn't rise or fall with the attention of others. Do you know that feeling? When being alone doesn't make you feel forgotten, but free. If you felt that inner strength, I invite you to share how you found it. What did it teach you? And what would you tell someone still afraid to be alone with themselves? Your story might be the calm someone else is searching for. Trait 3. Love for routine. Love for routine is not about repetition, it's about rhythm. It's about building a quiet structure in a world that so often feels chaotic. Frank, a 75-year-old retired postman, begins each morning at 6:30, not because he must, but because he chooses to. He makes the same breakfast, scrambled eggs, one slice of toast, black coffee in the same ceramic mug he's had for 20 years. After that, he puts on his cardigan, steps out for a short walk, and greets the same neighbors with the same nods. To someone younger, it may seem monotonous. To Frank, it's peace with form, a day shaped by intention, not impulse. In his routine, Frank has found something many people overlook, a gentle power. There's comfort in knowing what comes next, not because it limits life, but because it calms the noise. While others chase novelty, trying to fill each day with stimulation and speed, people like Frank have learned that repetition is not the enemy, it's a grounding force. Routine slows the world down just enough to hear yourself think. It gives shape to mornings, purpose to afternoons, and softness to nights. Many seniors who enjoy solitude are drawn to their own set of quiet rituals, not out of boredom, but from understanding. They know that routine doesn't make life smaller, it makes it steadier. Especially in old age, when external roles fade and the world no longer pulls as hard, having a rhythm of your own keeps you centered. It helps the mind stay clear, the body feel useful, and the spirit remain anchored. In fact, studies have shown that routine can improve cognitive function, reduce anxiety, and support sleep. But beyond the science, it simply feels good to belong to your own life in this way. Modern society often glamorizes freedom from structure. Wake when you want, move fast, change faster. But that pace wears people down. Seniors who move with intention, who embrace the predictability of their day, often report a deeper satisfaction, because life isn't about how much you do, it's about how you live what you do. Routine allows you to live it fully. Do you have a habit that brings you peace? A moment each day that belongs only to you? I'd love to hear it. Maybe it's your morning coffee, maybe it's the way you fold the laundry while listening to the birds. Whatever it is, share it below. Your routine might just inspire someone else to slow down and breathe. Trait 4. Selective with relationships. Selectivity with relationships is a quiet strength that reveals itself more clearly with age. Evelyn, now 79, once filled her calendar with lunches, church socials, birthday gatherings, and distant obligations. She used to say yes because she thought she had to, because that's what good people do. But something shifted after her husband passed, and her world grew smaller. She realized peace didn't come from being surrounded by many, but by being known deeply by a few. Now she keeps her circle small and her boundaries strong. A weekly phone call with an old friend, a slow walk with her neighbor every Thursday, and occasional visits from her grandson. These are enough, not because she's withdrawn, but because she has become more intentional. Being selective with relationships means understanding your own energy. Evelyn no longer entertains people who drain her. She no longer keeps friendships out of habit or guilt. She chooses warmth over obligation, quiet over noise, and truth over appearance. This discernment isn't bitterness, it's wisdom, and it's earned through years of experiencing what connection feels like when it's real versus when it's merely convenient. In a society that rewards popularity and constant social interaction, this kind of selectivity can be misread. Some may say Evelyn is distant or antisocial, but the truth is, she's simply learned to listen to her own needs. She doesn't chase validation, nor does she fear being alone. She knows the difference between being alone and being in bad company, and she'll always choose solitude over shallow connection. That's not loneliness, that's clarity. Younger generations often feel pressured to maintain large networks, to respond instantly, to attend everything. But many seniors like Evelyn have discovered that time is too precious to be spent on what doesn't nourish the soul. They have nothing left to prove. They'd rather sit in silence with someone who sees them than speak endlessly with those who never truly hear them. That's not giving up on people, it's honoring yourself. Have you reached that place too, where you no longer feel guilty for protecting your peace? What helped you make that shift? Share it in the comments if you'd like. You never know who might need permission to let go of a connection that no longer feels like home. Sometimes fewer voices make room for your own to finally be heard. Trait 5. Deep thinkers. Deep thinkers see the world through a quieter lens. They pause where others rush. They listen where others speak. And often, they feel more than they show. Leonard, an 82-year-old former mechanic, spends his mornings sitting alone on his porch the same way he did when his wife was alive. He doesn't check the news right away. He doesn't pick up the phone. Instead, he watches the light shift through the trees, holds a warm cup of tea in his calloused hands, and lets his mind wander, not out of boredom but out of habit formed through years of reflection. He remembers conversations, mistakes, moments that once passed unnoticed, and now in this slower phase of life, they return to him not as regrets, but as questions, lessons, or quiet reminders of what really matters. This is what it means to be a deep thinker. It isn't about being overly serious or detached from life. It's about giving your thoughts space to unfold, not just to react, but to understand. Seniors like Leonard often find meaning in the simple. They don't need grand events to feel alive. A shift in season, the softness in someone's voice, the memory of a gesture, these are enough to spark contemplation. And in that stillness, they find clarity that those always in motion rarely touch. Most of the world moves fast. People speak quickly, decide hastily, and scroll endlessly. But those who spend time alone and think deeply have chosen something different. They've chosen to digest life slowly, to revisit old chapters, not to rewrite them, but to finally read what they missed. That depth is not visible on the outside. It's not loud or showy, but it shows in how they respond with care, with patience, with understanding. While others may grow louder with age, deep thinkers grow quieter and wiser. Too often, deep thought is mistaken for distance. People assume someone quiet has nothing to say. But maybe, like Leonard, they're just thinking carefully about how to say it, or whether it even needs to be said. Their value isn't in how quickly they answer, but in how honestly they reflect. Do you ever find yourself going back to old memories, not to regret, but to understand? Have you learned something about yourself in silence that no one else could have taught you? If so, you're not alone. Feel free to share your reflections. Someone listening might find comfort in your thoughts, just as you once did in your own. Trait 6. Greater resilience. Greater resilience lives quietly inside many older adults, shaped not by ease but by endurance. Harold, now 81, lost his wife to illness 12 years ago. He raised 2 children alone, outlived most of his closest friends, and was forced to leave the home he built with his own hands due to a stroke that made stairs impossible. Yet each morning he opens the blinds in his small assisted living apartment, takes a breath and says aloud, "Another day." He doesn't say it with excitement. He says it with strength. Quiet, steady strength. To be resilient is not to be untouched by pain, but to keep moving through it. Harold has known sorrow, but he does not let it define him. He allows space for grief, but he also plants tomatoes on his balcony and writes letters to his grandchildren. While others might have given up or fallen into bitterness, Harold has become softer, not harder, more grateful, not resentful. His strength is not in denial, but in acceptance. In a society obsessed with pushing forward, with acting like nothing hurts, resilience is often misunderstood. Many see resilience as bouncing back quickly, acting tough, refusing to feel. But the resilience of seniors like Harold is different. It is not about suppressing emotion. It is about honoring it, sitting with it, and still finding reasons to live gently. It is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about knowing it isn't and choosing to continue anyway. That takes more courage than most realize. While much of the world avoids silence, resilient elders have made peace with it. They've cried in it, healed in it, and found wisdom there. This quiet courage, this ability to carry loss without being defined by it, is what allows them to offer comfort not just through words but by simply existing. When Harold shares his story, he doesn't offer advice. He just listens, nods, and says, "Yes, that's hard," and somehow that's enough. Have you ever lived through something that nearly broke you, only to realize later it shaped you? Instead, if you've carried loss and still managed to smile at something small, like a song, a flower, or a memory, you already know what resilience feels like. I invite you to share that moment. Someone else might be walking through their own storm looking for a reason to keep going. Your story could be it. Trait 7. Strong sense of identity. A strong sense of identity becomes clearer with time, not because we add more to ourselves, but because we finally strip away what isn't truly ours. Martha, now 77, no longer dresses to impress anyone. Her soft grey hair falls naturally past her shoulders. Her clothes are chosen for comfort, not approval. And she no longer apologizes for staying quiet in conversations that don't interest her. Each morning she chooses her own music, jazz, from the 1950s, not because it's popular, but because it reminds her of who she's always been. She doesn't look for herself in trends anymore. She looks inward, and what she finds is enough. Martha has come to know herself in a way that feels effortless. This wasn't always true. In her younger years, she chased validation like many, others trying to be likable, agreeable, easy to be around. But over time, through heartbreak, motherhood, work, and solitude, she found that peace lives not in trying to fit in, but in standing still and being at home in her own skin. That kind of self-understanding isn't about pride. It's about clarity. It's about no longer needing to explain yourself. In today's world, identity is often shaped by performance, what we share online, what we wear, and how we present ourselves in social settings. But many seniors like Martha have discovered the quiet power of stepping away from that stage. Their identity is not a show, it's a slow, steady return to truth. They know their values, they know what matters, and they don't spend energy pretending otherwise. This trait is often misunderstood. Some might call Martha stubborn or old-fashioned, but what they don't see is that her choices are not rigid, they're refined. She's tried the noise, the masks, the pretending. Now she chooses stillness, honesty, and alignment. She's not avoiding the world, she's choosing not to lose herself in it. Have you felt that too? That shift from trying to please others to simply honoring who you are. What helped you get there? Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was solitude. Or maybe it was just time. If you've experienced that quiet return to yourself, I invite you to share what changed. Your story might remind someone that it's never too late to stop chasing and start standing, to stop performing and simply be. Trait 8. Highly observant. Highly observant people often say little, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're too busy noticing what others miss. Clarence, 76, has always been that way. He sits quietly at his favorite bench in the park, watching people come and go. He notices how the wind moves through the trees, how a child holds tighter to their grandparent's hand when crossing the path, and how a stranger hesitates before smiling back. He rarely interrupts or gives advice, but when he does speak, his words land with surprising depth because they come from watching life carefully, not rushing through it. Clarence doesn't scroll through his phone during conversations. He doesn't speak over others to prove a point. He listens deeply. He watches expressions, tracks the pause between words, and hears what isn't said. This trait isn't taught in classrooms, and it's rarely celebrated in loud social settings. But in solitude, it grows strong, and in aging, it becomes wisdom. Seniors who enjoy being alone often develop this quiet sensitivity because silence gives space for perception to deepen. While the world spins fast, they slow down just enough to catch what matters. In today's culture, distraction is constant. People pride themselves on multitasking, on keeping busy, on talking more than listening. But those who live more slowly, like Clarence, see patterns in behavior, truth behind masks, and beauty in moments others pass by. They're not better than anyone. They're just more present, and that presence gives them a kind of emotional intelligence that doesn't need to be announced. Some might mistake this for being withdrawn or passive, but in reality, being highly observant is a sign of quiet engagement. It's choosing to absorb before reacting, to understand before judging. And in a noisy world, that's not weakness, it's rare strength. Clarence may not speak often, but when he does, it's from a place of clarity, not impulse. He knows what matters and he doesn't waste words. Have you ever found yourself noticing things that others overlook? Have you felt a moment more deeply, simply because you paused long enough to see it fully? If so, you likely carry this quiet gift too. Feel free to share what you've seen, what you've understood in silence. Someone else might need that kind of noticing in their life right now. Trait 9. Dislike for small talk. Dislike for small talk is not a sign of rudeness, it's a preference for depth. Elaine, 74, still attends her weekly community center gatherings, but she often stays on the edges of the room sipping tea quietly, listening. When conversations drift towards celebrity gossip or idle complaints about the weather, she smiles politely, but her eyes wander. She doesn't dislike people, she just craves something more real, something honest. And when someone sits beside her and asks about her garden, her childhood in Maine, or the first time she met her husband, her face lights up. That's when she speaks. Not to fill silence, but to build a connection. Many seniors who enjoy solitude naturally pull away from small talk because their inner world has become richer with age. They've lived through enough to know that surface-level chatter doesn't nourish the heart. They want conversations that matter, words that mean something, moments that linger. They'd rather talk about grief or hope or a dream that still lives quietly inside them. And when they find someone who's willing to meet them there, even for a few minutes, they remember it for days. In today's fast-moving culture, talk is constant, but rarely deep. People speak often, but not always truly. For those who prefer solitude, this flood of empty words feels exhausting. It's not that they can't talk, it's that they've grown selective about why they talk. They'd rather sit in silence with someone genuine than exchange 100 meaningless words. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's emotional clarity. It's knowing that time is too precious to waste on what doesn't resonate. Some may misunderstand this as aloofness or disinterest, but in truth it's the opposite. It's a longing for authenticity. Elaine isn't cold, she's careful. She's not uninterested, she's waiting for something real to emerge. And when it does, she listens fully, remembers your story, and replies not with noise but with presence. Do you ever feel the same? That pull away from the shallow and toward the meaningful? What kind of conversations make you feel most alive? If you've ever walked away from a loud room to sit beside one person who really sees you, then you already understand this trait. I'd love to hear what that moment felt like for you. Sometimes sharing even one true thought is more powerful than speaking all day. Trait 10. Highly creative. Highly creative people don't always see themselves as artists. Often they are simply those who, in quiet hours, find unexpected ways to express something deeply human. Edna, 80, spends most of her afternoons by the kitchen window with a notebook and a pencil, not writing poetry for the world to see, but sketching little moments from memory. The corner store where she once bought apples with her father, the silhouette of her husband reading in his chair, the pattern of morning light falling across the table. No one told her to do this. No one sees the drawings but her. Yet she returns to it day after day because it brings her something she cannot name, only feel. Creativity in solitude is often mistaken for passing time. But for seniors like Edna, it's much more than that. It's a way of processing emotion, of staying connected to a world that moves faster than they do, and of leaving a soft trace of themselves behind. They don't create for applause or attention. They create because it gives their day shape, voice, and color. It brings the invisible forward, and in doing so, it keeps the spirit awake. In a society that pushes productivity and visibility, creativity without an audience is seen as less valuable. But those who live more slowly know that some of the most meaningful forms of creation happen when no one is watching. When a man fixes a broken chair instead of throwing it away. When a woman bakes bread with her hands, not a machine. When someone sings softly to themselves while folding laundry. These are not performances. They are acts of presence, of care, of self-connection. People often think that being alone means being still, but creativity is movement, just quieter, more personal. And many seniors discover this not because someone encouraged them to be creative, but because solitude gave them the space to finally listen. To the song inside, to the memory returning, to the hands wanting to shape something just for the sake of making. Have you ever found yourself humming while doing dishes? Writing down a line that came to you out of nowhere? Fixing something with more love than necessary? That too is creativity. And if you have a way of expressing yourself through painting, gardening, woodworking, or even the way you tell stories, I invite you to share it below. Your quiet expression might stir someone else's sleeping spark. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. For many seniors, solitude is where inner strength grows, where clarity begins, and where peace finally feels like home. In this video, we explored 10 powerful personality traits found in older adults who enjoy their own company. From emotional independence to deep thinking, from quiet creativity to the strength of routine. Each trait isn't just a habit, it's a reflection of deep resilience, self-awareness, and dignity. If you saw yourself in any of these moments, I invite you to share just one thing in the comments. It could be a word, a memory, or a habit that helps you feel grounded. Your simple story may comfort someone else more than you know. If this message spoke to you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach others looking for the same wisdom, peace, and gentle encouragement. Let's continue building a space where quiet strength is honored and where every voice, no matter how soft, is heard.